It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
We've got a question from Mike. He says, I've been slow to start my retirement due to grad school with only $30K in retirement, but I now make $140K. Is it reasonable to put a higher amount than 25% into my retirement to catch up? He's 31 and he's single. Is this a good plan?
I mean,
yes. If you want to stop listening now, you can. Now we'll talk about why the answer is yes. Because I say yes. We see this all the time with he said grad school, but all the time we have doctors who they get their bachelor's degree and then they got to go to med school and then they're in school for like something else and they go to another school and they do all this schooling and they get out of school and they're in like their early to mid 30s and they're like, oh man, I'm kind of behind. What do I do? And the advice is pretty simple. You got to catch up. You got to kind of make up for that lost time. But the good news is, oftentimes, and it sounds like this is true in Mike's situation, there's a means and a method and a mechanism to be able to make up some of that lost time.
It is one of those things where if $1 for a 30-year-old still has the potential to grow 23-fold. Mm-hmm. And so that's pretty powerful. That's a lot better than the 50-year-old that only can get 3 times out of their money, or the 40-year-old that can get 7. So $1 turning into 23, and especially if there's employer match and other things that could turbocharge that. So I do want you to feel the pressure of that you started a little late, and I don't think 31's that late actually. I mean, because what's interesting when we do research for courses, for content, other things, I think anybody who starts before 40 has the potential to do something pretty amazing, even at 25%. Yep. We've got the math to support that. But I do think there's nothing wrong, and it's actually even healthy, if you ask yourself the why question. What's the why? What am I trying to do with this money? And then if it's because you think you want to leave the workforce in your late 50s or early 60s and you feel like you're behind compared to your peers, then by all means, boost it up. But also take a life inventory of, because there's a fine line between being a financial mutant and being a miser, because you said you're single. I've joked, I was at that Nashville soccer club. I'd gone to the first one. It's
pretty cool
park,
and
I don't know much about soccer, but it's really cool how they just let the clock run, then you reach halftime. And so you're talking to the people around there. And somehow I got to tell my $7 date night story in high school.
Okay.
And we were just laughing about that a little bit. And I do think back, now look, I didn't have any money. So it was out of necessity. I think it's somebody, I just want to make sure that Mike is single, and if he, don't let your 20s go by. Well, he's in his 30s now. Don't let your 30s go by and you save all this money and you didn't experience life, and you're doing $7 date nights when you could do a nicer date out but still invest in the future. Take these things into account too, because there's a comfortable balance there between financial goals as well as make sure you have a life that you feel really fulfilled about.
I don't disagree with what you said, but I do know, like Mike, I don't know what your path is, right? I don't know if you're planning on getting married. I don't know if you want to have kids. I don't know if you want to buy a home. I don't know if you want to move to a higher cost of living area. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. But what I do know is for most of us, life circumstances change, and generally speaking, as we age, life just gets more expensive, right? Like it's just a natural, no matter what our unique circumstance is, it just kind of, the lifestyle sort of creeps, if you will. If you can, starting at 31, just have an insane savings rate to get those dollars working for yourself, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because life kind of has a way of sucking on that discretionary income and starting to reduce it and starting to make it drop a little bit. Don't be a miser and don't sacrifice getting to do things and experience things, but don't feel like you have to go seek out ways to spend your money, because your future self might thank your present self for having some of those crazy aggressive savings rates early on.
Yeah, and I think a good way to close it out is just to share. I know personal life goals is I was trying to make 6 figures by 30, and then I was trying to have 7 figures liquid by 40. And those, if you can set your own personal goals, I think they can kind of center you on what what your goal is, so then you can make sure you're incorporating the life part of that into the plan.